ביאור משנה ו', the explanation for משנה ו'. משנה זו אינה מעניין פרקנו. So this is good for Moshe. Okay. Moshe, this is for you. It's a new subject. This Mishnah has got nothing to do with us. with עירובין, תחומים. שאינה עוסקת בעירובי תחומים, אלא בעירובי חצרות ומבואות. No, Moshe, you're still in trouble. Okay. Yeah, but it doesn't do עירוב תחומים out of the city. It deals with עירוב חצרות. Being able to carry from one yard to another yard. Yeah? We already learned it. ולהבנת משנתנו יש להקדים דברים אחדים. In order to understand the Mishnah, we have to understand a couple of things. עיר המוקפת חומה. There's a city surrounded by a wall, let's take ירושלים for example. גבוהה 10 טפחים, as long as it's 1 meter, at least 1 meter. ויש לה דלתות הראויות לנהל בלילה. And it has proper gates. In other words, gates you can close. It's not just for show. You can't just hop over the fence. You know, you can lock it. דינה כמבוי.
1 meter you hop over the fence.
No, there's going to be something, guards or something, but 1 meter is the minimum.
Okay. Yeah.
And usually people don't do 1 meter, but it says 1 meter is still good. דינה כמבוי. It's still considered to be like a mavoy. You remember what a mavoy is? When we have a street that all the chatzerot, all the yards are open to it, so all the street belongs to everybody. Okay? And you're allowed to carry to the street and from the street. But the sage says, don't carry, because once you carry to the street that only belongs to you, you're also going to carry to the main street, and that's not allowed from the Torah. So therefore, make an eruv so that everybody will see. Put a lechi, if you remember, that's what we discussed. שיתוף כל החצרות ומבואות שבה מותר לטל בחולה בשבת. ברם. But we're going to see, there's going to be a big difference. יש הבדל בעניין זה בין עיר של יחיד. There's such a concept, a city of an individual. Now you would say, where did you ever see a city individual? Many times, in many occasions, you can have an individual city. He says, I'll give you an example from yesterday's Chumash. ויבוא לוט ויאהל עד סדום. Lot had like 5,000, 50,000, I don't know, 5,000 servants. He made a town where all the way to Sodom. So imagine that he took this town and he put a fence around it. He owns the entire town. He's one guy and he's got 5,000 servants and he owns the entire town. Yeah. Or, yeah, that's Ir Shel Yachid. So even an example from yesterday's Chumash. Yeah. היינו השייכת לאדם יחיד. So it says, but excuse me, there's a problem though. Today there's no slaves. Also at that time there were no slaves. So what are you talking about? Practically, what are you talking about, Ir Shel Yachid? So he says, I can tell you there is such a thing as Ir Shel Yachid. Somebody has farmland, and he owns farmland, and the city grows into the farmland, and he says, you know what, I can make money over here. I'm going to rent my farmland for people to build houses in. It's my land, or even I'm going to build houses and rent them out to the people. Okay. So he uses his farmland to put on 5,000 units. And that's and even that is an Ir Shel Yachid, a city that belongs to one person, because he owns the entire city. A regular city is you own a piece of land, you own a piece of land. This one, the entire city, the entire shchuna, the entire neighborhood is owned by one guy. Yeah. He owns it.
You can buy 10,000 acres. You know?
Yeah, for example. Yeah, you can make your city. והוא משכיר בתי לדיירים, and he's renting the houses to people. הוא בן עיר של רבים. So if it's surrounded by a wall, whether it is a single city or whether it is a city that belongs to many people, שכן בעיר של יחיד משתתפים כל תייריה בשיתוף אחד. In a singular city, not everybody needs to make a שיתוף. It's my city. I need to make a shittuf, it does. ומותר תל בקולה. As long as there's the owner of the place puts a piece of bread or whatever, says this is the meal, everybody is allowed to carry everywhere now. He's one person.
But But you have to have walls.
There's a wall, that's what we say. There's a wall around, that's why we discussed. There's a wall around. אבל בעיר של רבים, but now comes, what happens is everybody owns this piece of land now. So,
each one has to do
let's see. אבל בעיר של רבים אין משתתפים ומערבים את כולה. It says, it's true, also everybody can join. You can take, everybody give me 1 penny. Yeah? I take 1 penny from everybody, I buy some food with all that money, and then I buy it. It says, we won't let you. It says, we won't let you do that. We're not going to let you do that. We'll see soon. אין משתתפים ומערבים כולה. We don't going to let you do this. אלא מניחים חלק של העיר בלא שיתוף. We're going to leave a couple of houses that without this. It says you cannot do the entire city, everybody together. There needs to be one shchuna, one neighborhood that are not allowed to carry from one place to another. Let's see why. והשאר משתתפים and all the rest come together. So all the rest come together except one neighborhood has to be left out. Says, what's the idea? Why are you leaving them out? ומותרים הם לטלטל בכל העיר, חוץ מאותו חלק ששירו. And the people are allowed to go the entire city except that part that they left out. And why did they do it? ודבר זה משום היכהו. They did it because to make them notice. What are they noticing? כדי שידעו אנשי העיר, because that the people of the city should know, שעל ידי עירוב בלבד מותר להם לטלטל בעיר זו. Because people are going to know now, excuse me, there's a neighborhood you're not allowed to go to. You can go, so that people are not going to forget that there's such a thing as an Eruv. Otherwise people would not know. It says you can walk whenever, in every city, whatever. So no. In every city, everybody knows we're allowed to carry except there. So people will ask, why are you not allowed to carry there? Oh, because there's no Eruv over there. So you do Eruv. Okay. So as long as there's Eruv, they know that there's Eruv, now we're fine. אף שרבים עוברים בה, והיא נראית כרשות הרבים. It says, even though many pass through this neighborhood, and it looks like public domain, שהרי בחלק האחר שלא ישתתפו בו, אסורים הם לטלטל. Because in the other part, they're not allowed to carry. אמנם גם הדיירים שבחלק האחר העשים לעשות שיתוף לעצמם, they're also going to make a שיתוף, but not together. These guys are going to make שיתוף, these guys are... In other words, they have to remember to make their own שיתוף, so that people will always have that there's actually, you have to do it. אם רבים הם, if they are many, אבל אינם מותרים לטלטל בשאר כל העיר, אלא בכלל, but they're only going to be able to carry in their neighborhood. They're not from that neighborhood to the city, you're not allowed to go. From that city to the neighborhood, you're allowed to go. Only in that neighborhood you're allowed to go, and only in that city, except that neighborhood, you're allowed to go. Okay, משנתנו דנה, our Mishnah is a special case. What are Mishnah dealing with? בעיר שהייתה של יחיד, it was a city that used to belong to one guy. In other words, he does the whole thing. If the whole city belongs to one guy, you don't need to keep some of the houses out of the Eruv. You can keep all of the houses in the Eruv because it only belongs to me. But what happened is it used to belong to me, and then I started selling pieces of land away. And all of a sudden it became a proper city now. So what happens now? Is it a proper city or it's not a proper city? Yesterday it was...
If he sell them?
After he sells. So that's the question. ונעשתה של רבים, או להפך, or the opposite. Somebody came and bought all the houses in that neighborhood. He bought all the houses in the neighborhood, and now it becomes a singular one. So now how do I treat it? Do I treat it as the neighborhood belongs only to me, or do I need to do an Eruv or not do an Eruv? Okay. כן דנה המשנה בגודל אותו חלק שצריכים לשייר. The Mishnah is also going to discuss what portion you need to keep out, how big it is to be, בעיר של רבים, in a big city, ונחלקו בזה תנאים במשנתנו. It's going to be disagreement of the תנאים in our Mishnah. עיר של יחיד, we're going to start, a city of a singular person, שאדם אחד היה בעל העיר. There was only one person who owns the entire city. והוא הזכיר את בתי הדיירים, he's renting the entire town to other people. ונעשת של רבים, it becomes of the many. ונעשתה אחר כך לעיר של רבים. People started buying the land of him. שקנו אותו מיד היחיד, started buying it from his hand. מערבין את כולה. It says you still consider it as a ir shel yachid. You're allowed to make an eruv again. What's the idea? להקל, very good. כל דיירי העיר מערבים עירוב חצרות. You don't need to keep one portion out of the area. Everybody can do עירוב חצרות.
It's not logical.
Why?
Because it's עיר של רבים. The minute you change it from the יחיד לרבים, זה נהיה עיר של רבים. I don't understand why you don't. No?
You are trying to make it as easy on the community as possible.
That's the only
It's an invention of the rabbis, the whole thing. So he says, if we're inventing it, you know, something, you know what, you have the same rule over here. It's called, you know what it's called? Grandfather laws.
Oh, grandfather.
How's it called over here? Grandfather
law, yeah.
Grandfather law. But it says, not every place, not in every situation, you can use the grandfather law. In some situations, you can say, no, grandfather laws don't work. Because it's a mitzvah from the rabbis, and because they wanted to make it easy on the people, they made the grandfather law in this case.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah? Now it's good. Now it's better?
Okay.
כלומר, which means, שכל החצרות שבה, that all the neighborhoods inside of, משתתפים בשיתוף העיר, כמו משתתפים בשיתוף של מבוי. Everybody together puts together. ומותרים לטטל בכולה, and they're allowed to carry everywhere, כדרך שהייתו מערבים כשהייתה של יחיד, כמו שבארנו. Grandfather law. In Eruvin, there is such a state as grandfather law. ושל רבים, what happened if it was the opposite though? It was the many, and it became few. ושל רבים, ועיר שהייתה של רבים, and a city that used to belong to the many, and somebody bought it out, ונעשת של יחיד, ונעשתה קניינו של יחיד, and somebody bought out the entire city, אין מערבים את כולה. You don't have to do the עירוב, you don't do the עירוב for everything, שדינה כמו בתחילה שלא עירבוה כשהייתה של רבים. And you're going to use it just like it was of the many, not of the singular. אלא אם כן, it says you want to get out of the situation, you want to make your life easier, עשה חוצה לה. עשה שיעור חוץ לעיר. What you can make is there's going to be a new neighborhood outside of the city and make that neighborhood the extra city. The extra part that you don't carry into. היינו, מקום שהניחו בלי עירוב. So it says, how big do you have to live? Because cities grows, you know? So how big that neighborhood needs to be? It says, there's a measurement for how big a neighborhood is. This is the minimum amount of a neighborhood. Let's say, what is a neighborhood? What's the minimum amount of a neighborhood? כעיר חדשה, by the way, it's not mean new. חדשה is a name of a city. כעיר חדשה, like a city called חדשה, שביהודה. There was a city called חדשה in the tribe of Yehuda, שיש בה, it was the smallest city in Israel, 50 דיורים. They had 50 people, 50 population.
50 houses, 50 people.
I don't know. Good question. 50 דיורים? I'm not sure. Well, let's see, maybe it's going to say. One of the two, whatever. בברייתא בגמרא מבואר, in the ברייתא, in the Gemara it says, עיר אחת הייתה ביהודה, there was one town in יהודה, וחדשה שמה, her name was חדשה, והיו בה 50 דיורים, and it had, I think it was 50 houses. And it, no. I think the population, they had a population of 50.
Wow.
אנשים ונשים וטף, a population of 50. It could have been one house. Yeah, theoretically. ובה היו משערים חכמים, והיא הייתה שיעור. This was the measurement, this was the smallest city in it. Before that, it's not a city, it's a house, it's not a city. A city means 50 people living there. That's the minimum amount of people to call a city. כלומר, which means, שעיר זו נחשבה כשיעור לעיר הישנה הסמוכה לה. And they used that city, that neighborhood, as an extra, says we're not allowed to carry into there, to remember that we're not allowed to carry.
Now they can carry in all their neighborhoods, but not in the
That's right. שעל ידיה היו מערבים את כל העיר הישנה. Through that city, they used to make an eruv for the whole old city. והוא הדין בכל עיר של רבים, this is the law in every city of the many, שצריך לשייר כשיעור עיר חדשה. You need to live at least a population of 50 needs to be, a neighborhood of 50 needs to be out of the Eruv, always. כדי שהשאר יערבו את כולה, in order to permit the Eruv for everybody else. ואפילו נעשתה עיר של יחיד, אין מערבים את כולה בלי שיעור. Even it becomes a singular thing, somebody buys it all out, it goes grandfather to the old ways now. Even though this is a stringency, you still get grandfather into the stringency. This is divrei Rabbi Yehuda. This is according to what Rabbi Yehuda taught us. הסובר שצריך שיעור של 50 דיורים כשיעורה של עיר חדשה. Rabbi Yehuda says you need at least 50 population of 50 people to become a new city. Rabbi Shimon אומר, I don't need 50. All I need is what? 3 חצרות של שני בתים. All I need is 3 courtyards from 2 houses. That's the minimum. Let's see. שיעור המקום שצריך להניח שם, שיעור דיו ב3 חצרות. You remember what חצר is? חצר is many. חצר is the whole family.
But in each one is 2 houses.
Can have a couple of houses in each חצר. Yeah? 3 חצרות, that שיש בהם כל אחד 2 בתים. In other words, you need 3 properties with at least 2 houses on each. That's the minimum of a neighborhood.
3 duplexes.
3 duplexes, very good. You need 3 duplexes, exactly. You need 3 duplexes. Beram. This is according to Rabbi Shimon. ההלכה היא, the law, פרדין to us, from the Rambam, אפילו חצר אחת שיש בבית אחת, even 1 house with 1 courtyard is enough. 1 courtyard with 1 house is enough as long, because you're doing it so that to tell people you're not allowed to go into the courtyard. Once they know it, you have it. בגמרא אמרו, in the Gemara that says, שאפילו עיר של רבים, that says even a city of the many, אם אין לה אלא פתח אחד, if the city only has 1 opening, דינה כעיר של יחיד. It has, like if you take Yerushalayim, you close all the gates, shut with bricks, except 1, it becomes an עיר של יחיד. ומערבים את כולה בלי שיעור. And then you're allowed to make the entire city without a measurement, because everybody knows it's one thing. Yeah, you're not going to come to זהו. וכן הלכה, and this is the law.